Excuse me. There we go, back on YouTube. Hello, hello. If you're watching this in the future, this is a Q&A session. So we do this every 2 weeks, and we usually pick one use case, go through it. But if there's any questions about the platform or anything else, we'll answer them here. So we do this every 2 weeks. Today is, excuse me, the 8th. So the next time will be the 22nd. So jump in live next time. But we'll give it a few minutes. I'm a little early today. It's usually at 4 p.m. But I wanted to jump in here. This is their first YouTube live stream in a minute. We've been over on Twitch. I think I like YouTube better. But yeah, we'll give it a few minutes. I got a cool use case to go through today. What we'll be doing is, I'll actually show you while we're waiting on people to jump in here. Let's see, I think I've already built one. Excuse me, my voice is giving out today too. I think I'm getting sick. So I do apologize in advance for how raspy I'm sounding. Yeah, so let's take a look at this. So today, what the objective is we're going to build a service that knows the user that goes to it. So that's going to give us all kinds of customizations. What we can do is give different views depending on the person who is looking at the site. In this case, it's me. So I have a different page here than what someone else might have. Pretty cool. Opens up a lot of dynamic stuff that we can do. So I'm excited to show you this today. This is an admin view. I don't think I've done too much on the non-admin view on this. Yeah, logged out view. Don't think there's anything in that one, but mainly just showing you that we can pull user-specific information and do certain stuff with it. That's what we'll be doing in this video. I'll give it a few minutes to let people jump in here. Definitely started a little early, but I will post to our Discord community that I'm live. If you want to join our Discord, the link is in the description of this video. So make sure you do that, and you'll get the notification too. I'm gonna find the link. So if you want to join our Discord community, feel free to. Cool. So I think we're all set up here. I'll give it a few more minutes. Apologies if you're watching this in the future. Probably skip ahead 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll be starting to build the actual project. But I'll let people jump in live if they're going to. Excuse me. See if there's any questions. See what you guys are working on. I hope you're all doing well. Everyone who's jumping in. Hope you're doing well today. Hope it's nice and sunny wherever you're at. Kind of cold here today in Florida. It's like 50 degrees. I shouldn't be complaining. I know people who have feet of snow on the ground. And apologies to anyone jumping in. I think my voice is giving out today, but we're going to make it through. Cool. All right, so what I'll do is I'll jump into an example, but feel free to stop me at any point if there's any questions whatsoever about something I'm doing or something that you're working on. In this video, what I want to show you how to do is to create a custom Flask app that shows you user-specific information. That way we can do different stuff for different users. we'll say user specific Flask example, and I'll click on create. This will put us inside of a WayScript layer. These are pre-configured environments where we can build out everything that we want into it. We get these pre-configured tools. So we get a terminal, a file directory, process tab, and a bunch of more hidden features that I'm sure we'll use in this video. All right, getting started, we'll be creating this as a Flask application. So we'll say something like app.py. I will go and steal some code to help us get started just a little bit in our documentation. So over in our documentation, we have this WayScript SDK, and I will get some of this information here. All right. We'll copy this and we'll paste this in. I'll talk through all of this, that way we know what's going on. So don't worry. Hopefully that's big enough. It looks like it is. So what's going on here is we're using the WayScript import of context, and what that context does is it allows us to get information about the user who is hitting our endpoint. In this case, when a user hits our endpoint, we send an authorization in the header, and we can get the user information about the user using that information. So if we were to go ahead and deploy this, just to show you very quickly how easy it is to deploy something on WayScript, we'll click on new trigger and we'll use the WayScript deploy trigger. As you can see, what that gives us is this hosted URL, where when a user goes to this URL, what happens is we run a command. In our case, we're wanting to set up a Flask application. So we will go, or I will go back to our docs and grab that command. And that command looks like this, just a Flask Run command. And we'll paste that in. Now, we'll make sure the ports match, and we'll click on Run. We'll make sure everything is saved. Give it a few seconds. Let's see if there's any questions. Doesn't look like it, so we're good to keep on going. So what this is doing is setting up our endpoint, where now when a user goes to this endpoint, what they're doing is executing this command. We can make sure that our server is running by going to the process tab, and we see that we have a running process here using the deploy trigger. So this is perfect. This is exactly what we want. We'll open this link in a new tab. And I forget what it gives us. Looks like some JSON information about myself, which is perfect. So I will probably use email for this example. This is small. Let me zoom in. Nice. I think that's good. So for this example, I will probably use email to separate myself out so I can get a different view on my Flask application. But you could imagine that you'd more ideally want to use something like groups. But just for this example, we'll use email, and I'll show you how to do that. All right. So back in our Flask application, I will zoom out just a little. Perfect. All right. So we know that user gives us this JSON struct, and what we'll want to do most likely is pull some information out of it so we know the user that is interacting with our site. Excuse me. So in this case, we'll say something like user email, and we'll pull out user email. Now, if we wanted to make something very unsophisticated if user email equals this. Let's see if it's all lowercase. It is. Excuse me. Then what we can do is return an example, return render, and we'll render some type of HTML. Since we're in a Flask application, we'll have to put that in a templates folder. So templates, and let's say that we want an admin.html. All right, great. So in our admin.html, this will be the user that, or this will be the content that I'm expecting if I'm an admin. We'll say something like secret stuff. Perfect. So back in our Flask application, we'll need an import called render template, and we will render that render template, and we'll pass in the name of that HTML. We called it at admin.html. And now, let's see, if user will return that, and if not, we will return render template. We'll call it, what's a funny name for a non-admin? Non-important.html. And we will make that. So non-important HTML. Way less secret of stuff. All right, perfect. So at this point, we have all of this logic. I will be amazed if it runs without any errors. I'm just double checking real quick. But let's hope it does. Since we'll be working with this quite a bit, there's a shortcut that we can do. We can create an environment variable. We can do that within WayScript by using this .env. So in this .env, we can make a variable called Flask env, and we can put development. What this will do is auto refresh anytime we make a change, so we don't have to continue to redeploy every time. But since we just added that, we need to redeploy once more. We'll give it just a second, and we'll see. So once that deploys, we should have a Flask application that, since my user context is this, then I should see the important information in admin.html and not non-important.html. Excuse me. All right, so let's give it a shot. Secret stuff, which I believe was the admin.html. Let's make sure. Yes, it was. So that's how we would go about differentiating different views using the WayScript context variable. Pretty straightforward. There's a lot more that we can do with it. You could imagine all sorts of different use cases for an admin view and a non-admin view. And there's a lot more we can do too. So at this point, we've built the application that we want, and we might want to deploy it. What we can do to deploy it in WayScript is we can click on this deploy button to the left. Make sure my face cam isn't blocking it. No, I think we're good. And we'll click on deploy. This is pretty neat because now we can have a public facing version and a version that I can continue to build into. So I will share the public version with you guys so you can go and view the not so secret stuff. Which one was it? This one. Which brings me to another important point, is all endpoints created within WayScript, like this one, are protected by default. And what that means is we can control them with this button here. So we have two different endpoints we see now since we deployed. We have that dev one where we can go and view our changes in our dev state, and the prod one, which shouldn't change unless we deploy it. But what we can do is I will make this publicly accessible. That way you guys can go and view the link. So these endpoints should now be public. Let me go and grab the link for it, and I will post it in chat so you guys can see it if you want to. Cool. So let me double check, make sure deploy didn't hurt anything. I don't think it did. And now you guys can go and see it. Excuse me, I'm struggling today. My voice is giving out. I think I'm getting sick. All right, so there's the link. And if anyone wants to double check, make sure it works, it should be publicly accessible. And what happens since you go to it, you do not have the same email as me, so you will get the other HTML file. And there's a lot more that we can do with this. If there's any questions or anything about this, please let me know. Or if there's anything that you want to see an example of, I'm happy to do it. If not, I will probably continue to make, maybe not HTML content, because I'm not the best HTML coder, but we can do more with hitting this endpoint. But since we got this up and working, I guess it's a good time to very briefly show this dashboard here. And so we're doing the same thing in this dashboard as we were in the other one. But this one is a little bit nicer, a little bit cleaner HTML. I didn't make it, but you see that we're doing the same thing. So this was the original example, and in the code, in our app.py, all we're doing is within our request, let's find it. Yeah, so we're getting the user context and we're returning the email. We're passing it back to the user, and if not, then we're giving a logged out view. So pretty cool, pretty cool. With that example, I guess what we'll do is start using secrets. If there's no questions or anything that anyone wants to see, we'll continue on and we'll start using the secrets manager. So in WayScript, this probably isn't going to be too good of an example because you likely don't want to store your own WayScript secrets within your secret file in WayScript, if that makes sense. But we'll do it just to show you. So I can hit these endpoints programmatically if I want to. So let's create another route. We will say in our Flask application, we will add a route in. So in our route, let's say that we have some call called get user information. And we'll say get user information as our function. We'll put a lot of comments in, so it looks like we're coding a whole lot. So important lines of code connecting to our DB. And then in our return statement, we will say return a JSON struct. We'll say something like message, and we'll do it worked. So since we included that .env, we don't have to redeploy anymore. We don't have to deploy our dev state anymore because it will automatically get this for us. This is not in prod. We would have to deploy using the more official deploy over here on the left to get it reflected in prod. But our dev state will deploy just fine. And what we'll do is let's create a Python script We'll say send request.py. We'll import a library to send that request. We'll say something like response equals requests.post. We'll need a header. And let me go and make sure that this is a basic auth in our documentations. Trying to find it. I'll pull it over so you guys can look with me. Yeah, here we go. And this is what we need. We'll copy this. So what we're doing is we're going to try to hit this endpoint using a secret bearer token. We'll do this actually as an F string. Key. We'll do key os. We're going to store this as a secret. So os.environ.get, and we'll call it token. We'll pass that into our authentication header with something that looks like this. And we'll have our layer endpoint, which will just be this URL here. We'll add on our path of get, I forget what it is, get user information. Get user information. All right. Now, what we'll need to do is, so like I was saying, ideally you probably don't want to store your own application key within your WayScript secrets file, but we'll do it in this case just to show you. So in your settings, you have, let me make sure that this is saved. I believe it was. So in your settings, you get access to your keys. I will get my key and copy it. Then what we can do is we'll go back. We have this secrets manager here. I believe we called it token, and I will paste that token in. That means I can now use my WayScript resources using that token and passing it with my send request function here. So at this point, we'll make use of the built-in terminal, and what we're expecting is to hit the URL that we're hosting with this deploy trigger, and we'll get back this information of it worked. So we'll do that now. We'll say, let's make a, I don't know if it's installed by default, but we'll say pip3 install requests. Already satisfied. Okay. So now, see a typo. We'll say Python and our script name, send request.py. I lost my cursor. Oh, it's not imported. I'm trying to import or pip install OS. That's funny. All right, so Python send request.py, and we get our message back. So this isn't actually showing you anything, I forget, because we made these public. So let's go ahead and turn that public off, and we'll go back and run this one more time. All right, Python send request.py, and we still get our message back. So a lot of different stuff is going on there, and I will try to explain it all once more. Let me make sure there's no questions or anything over on YouTube. Nope, looks like we're good. So what we're doing in this example is we have our Flask application that, albeit doesn't look like it's doing a whole lot, you can imagine it does quite a bit, connecting to a database, whatever you want to do, and returns a message as an API response. Then to access that, we need a app token or a authentication token, which we can put into our .secrets file. And that way we don't have to share this token with a bunch of people. And instead, we can use it like an environment variable. Then in our send request, we're accessing that environment variable to show you how we can go and get that password protected information using our WayScript account token. So this gets pretty powerful because you could imagine that what we're doing in our app.py is that we're interacting with something that needs a second token. Say we're interacting with a database that has a bunch of information or a service like Slack. What one person can do is put all those credentials into a .secrets manager, and then any user in your workspace, I will show you my workspace. I think I'm the only one in here right now, but any member in your workspace is going to be able to use WayScript tokens and access that information. So it gets pretty powerful pretty quickly. And it's pretty cool. At least I think so. But yeah, so there's a few different examples. That's all I had prepared today. We're still pretty early, but if there's any questions, please let me know. If there's anything that you want to see on the platform, please let me know that too. And I think I'll show you one more example that I can do pretty quickly. Let's go back into this one. So let's say that this call, this get user information, let's say that it connects to a database that you want to access every day, get information from that database, and maybe do something with it. And then you can send it out to your teammates or whatever you want. And I will show you how we can execute this send request every day at the same time. So this is pretty straightforward. In WayScript, we have the trigger system that we've already seen. We can select new trigger. We'll do a cron trigger. And, excuse me, our command to run here will be Python to execute a Python script, send request.py, and we can choose our time interval. Let's do every 10 minutes, but you could make it custom too if you wanted to. I'm not very good with cron, so I will leave it as 10 minutes. And we can click run, but it's not going to do anything other than execute it one time. What we have to do now at this point is we've already seen the two different environments. We have the dev one and the prod one. So to get that trigger to execute, what we need is to put that into our prod state. And we can do that with that deploy feature that we talked about earlier. So we'll deploy this. And what that means is every 10 minutes, our cron trigger setting will execute our script. So there's not a good way to show the execution, but it's happening. Yeah, I don't think there's a quick way to show that those cron executions are happening, but you can trust me, it's happening every 10 minutes. As long as there's no typo, I don't think there is. Yeah, so that's how we would set that up to run cron at any interval that you want, how to set up a Flask application, how to have user-specific Flask app returns, and how everything is password protected. We covered secrets and environment variables. And I think that, oh, and also workspaces. So quite a bit in 20 minutes. If there's no questions, I might jump off here. That's kind of all I had prepared for this one. But yeah, if you're watching this back in the future, this is our Q&A. We do this every 2 weeks. I try to have some stuff prepared, but not very much. Mainly just here to answer questions about whatever it is you're working on, or maybe videos we put out. And if you want to get a notification the next time we go live, there's a Discord link down below. And with all of that said, I guess I'll jump off here. Kind of a quick one. But thank you guys for bearing with my voice. Hopefully I don't get sick. And hopefully you guys have a great day. And I'll talk to you.